Oh my gosh, guess what I just did? I don't actually know what I just did, but somehow I turned off my phone, the taping 5 minutes, 5 seconds into the last segment. And so I completely made our flower, which by the way came out awesome. And I hope that, and I just had to completely unravel it. So if I sound grumpy, it's because I'm tired after spending 40 minutes putting it together. So I hope I don't leave anything out in the interest of that. Um, because holy cow, that was a long endeavor, and dang it. So I have to explain that to you guys. And also now the wire looks a little kinked up. I was lucky I got it all apart. Anyhow, so let's start over. I'm just telling you guys that in case like I seem like I'm have less patience with the flower and the wire than I normally do. So anyway, let's get to it. So now we have all of our segments, right? I actually did all of them. So we have, and I haven't done this before, but I thought it'd be useful because normally I do these two in one color, which I did again, and it probably, you can't see how cool this pink is. It probably just looks like white because it, it's so pale, but it's really cool. But I almost always did all the same colors in one, and that would be such a heavy segment, so it'd be really hard to wrap. So I actually broke it up this time into the two different sizes. So the largest size right now that we have is the outer, we already talked about this one, but just to bring it all together, we have the outer crossover loop in this one at 4 1/4, and there's 16 of those. And I did it in my go-to wire, my artistic wire, pearl silver 24 gauge. I really like them to be stiff and able to be manipulated and to look nice with it. And this is actually, we lost some lighting because I just burned out my battery on that one, but that's okay. I think it adjusted for it, so we're good. So anyhow, and this is a cool one to use because it has a little bit of a coating on it, and so you can actually color it if you want to. So for example, if you were, say, doing I don't know, something that starts out light and ends up a darker color, you could go in, and I haven't done it with this one yet, but you could use like an alcohol ink marker and get right in there if you wanted to change. This one, it's not much wire exposed, but you could, change the wire color down there to match this. And so I use this for pretty much everything light. And anytime when I have sort of a neutral situation, it's a very handy wire. I love the finish. It's not the cheapest wire out there. It's not the most expensive, but it's worth it. This is a great wire for any light colors for sure. So that's what I used the 24 gauge for this one. And then I had, so I had 16 at 4 1/4, and I had 16 at 3 3/4. And then I have only one other segment of double crossover loops. And I'm going to have this all in a PDF. Might take a second. I was going to do it after I did the video. But now that I'm doing the video twice, I don't know if I'll be able to do it right away. So then this, I also did on that same 24 gauge wire. I made these a little longer than I wanted to, but that's okay. So on these, I did 16 where the outer loop was 3 3/8 and 12 where it's just 3 inches even. Now, what I meant too when I told you guys that, like, don't worry if you have any. First of all, sometimes these, if you get ones that go to the side, which I think I said in this little extra bit that I probably going to stick in there, no big deal. They go to the side. If you can get it right at the top, great. If it has to be the side, fine. We're looking more for that shape. The other thing I said is, like, you can push your mistakes down to the bottom because they get hidden underneath all the other petals. Now, these petals have been worked over now. I literally assembled the entire flower and shaped it. And at first I was skeptical and I was a little bit nervous because the camera was going, like, if it would come to that round spherical thing. And it did. It looked so good. I really hope it looks good again. It should, because of those numbers. Anyhow, the numbers of how many you make and what the links are. So my point with this is, like, if you can err on the side of putting too much so that you can really get, like, right up in there with the bead, right up in there with the top beads. And then if you end up with too many, then on the bottom and there's a little bit of clunky overlap, who cares? Nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to see it. I think, okay, you get out of here, mister, for now. Because I think even on one of these, which I showed in the previous iteration of this video, I even had one, a bead got stuck behind, and that happens. Like, oh, like on this one here, like, look at this thing, this bead's down here. What's going on there? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Because the mistakes are all jammed down here. So you want the top to look nice and flat and pretty, and then you sweep all the mistakes under the rug. Well, down to the middle. So just pinch all those extra beads. So that's why I always, with these, I opt for more beads, not less, which is what I do with my basic frames, is I normally go on the underestimating. Here I do the overestimating because if it's too much, it'll just end up making this bottom look a little chunkier, but I can still shape the top pretty and just keep everything down, all the extra bits down at the bottom. And that all is because I'm pinching this one, so there is no room for extra bits up here, so it has to go all down to the bottom. Anyway, so I had this one. That's my next segment, right? Next color. And you can do these in one color, however many you want. I'm doing it in 5, kind of. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, after these particular units or segments, we go to our old friend, continuous loops, which apparently has a really long tail on this one. So on this one, we did 20. I did 24, and this is the next color. I don't know why I chose to do this in the camera, because it's actually, you might not be able to see how different the colors are. I really wanted this like baby pink outer thing, because I've never really done that. I've always done like a dusty kind of antique looking pink, which I just wanted to do pink. Why am I scared of pink? I don't know. Shouldn't be scared of pink. That's just weird. So I'm not anymore, especially after the assembly, and it turned out so well. Huh. I'm saying, like hopefully it'll turn out well again. Anyhow, that being said, 24 2.5 inch continuous loops, just single regular old continuous loops. That's the next thing, the next color. Now you can break these colors up however. I'm just going to list the bead counts, and you can group them however you want to. I mean, I'll show you on there like a suggested grouping, this grouping, but you do whatever you want to do. Now, the last one, I mean, the next one is the second to last thing. These are 2 different sizes. So it's this color here. It's definitely deepening the pink thing going on here. And on this one, I did 16 2-inch continuous loops, and then 16 1.5 inch continuous loops. And everything looks a little bent out of shape because I unwound it and tried to flatten it back down again. Learned a lesson there. I'm hoping that you don't really want to overwork wire because it can snap. So I'm hoping that these won't snap when I go back to rewire them. That will be a bit of a drag. Now, here's the deal. When I was going to my original plan with this was to use this as my outer, and this one as the next one, this one here, and then this one as the one after it, and then this one. And then my plan was to use this one. You know, and I thought that seemed okay, but then this got kind of dramatic really fast. It went almost over too much. So instead, I made that one, and it looked like this, which is okay. It looked like that, but it just kind of took too far of a jump for what I was looking for at the time. So I did a method that you can do, which one of our other group members did, and reminded me of it actually, because I used it quite a bit in the past, and then had forgot about it, which is to mix the 2 colors. So I mixed this color with this color, and I made this one, which actually, let's see it next to each other. So it looks like it's speckled, but the thing is, actually, when you look down on it, it's just going to make it look slightly darker than the other one and have a little more personality, but not quite as off as this. And that's a good way to blend too. In fact, I did that in my sort of brownish one here. The original one here, which I then reshaped in the last video. Okay, so I did that here. You can actually see this bead these beads right here are actually these beads and these beads mixed. And then the next layer up, I had these beads, and then this bead here, this one here is these beads and these bead mix. So it gives it sort of a gradation. And you see the spots if you're like looking to the side, but they're kind of cool looking anyway. But if you look down, it just looks like shading. And I actually use this technique a lot with the mums in particular. In fact, I think that's the only ones I've used. And our group member, our fellow group member, separated them, which I never even thought of because it just looked way too frustrating, and because I mixed way too many. So I ended up staving them in little like Tupperwares. So I actually already had these mixed from like probably a year ago, which is another reason I decided to do that particular mum. So that's a good way to do it. You can mix the two colors around it, right? And you can mix them, and it'll make kind of trick the eye into making it think it's actually a color in between, right? And sometimes it'll be more noticeable. This is actually pretty subtle, this one, and the 2 together are not close, but this works. The 2 pinks I used, it's a little more noticeable, but it works because you're looking down on it. You're not just seeing those polka dots. Anyhow, so that's just another thought with that. So let's get going to wrapping them. Let's cross our fingers big time that I'm not going to snap the wire after I unraveled it. By the way, if you do have to well, let me put together some stem wire to demonstrate what I'm about to say. So now with these, I would be honest, I'd say that I would probably, if I'm doing the big one, I would probably do, I'm going to do 3 because we did 2 before and it's a lighter flower for the Spider Mom. And 2 actually works for the more disc shaped one. It's pretty solid, right? It's pretty okay. I did my prototype of the full one on a 2 and I'm feeling it's a little wiggly jiggly. And I'm not comfortable with that because I don't know where I'm going to cut this thing off. It's up to you what you do with that. You could use 3 18 gauges and that might not be as much. And it's not horrible. It's up to you. So you could go 2, but who knows? I'm going to go 3 on this one and see how it plays out. Even though I know from what I just did, it's going to play out that it's really hard for me to bend it and unbend it to show you guys things. That's one way it's going to play out. But I'm going to do it anyway. Now, that also means that if you use the calyx idea from the last one, you're going to have to make a bigger hole. So instead of doing like 7 and 7 on each side, you might want to do an 8 and an 8 or even an 8 and a 9, you know, measure it. I actually have some of the calyces that we made for that, and I'm going to see if I can jam it on this triple, and then we'll know. Now, so when you have a triple like this, I'm going to get out, I want kind of a stronger wire with it. I'm going to use a 30 gauge, but 32 would probably still work. I'm going to get them all up here, and I'm going to just do it loose, not loose. I mean, I don't mean loose as in like loose. I want it to be a tight wiring, but it doesn't have to be tight on each other. It doesn't have to be a close wrap. And it's going to hard, when you first hold it, it might just be 3 flat wires, but just kind of try to hold it more in a circle, like more in a triangle pattern. And even if it doesn't work right away, I promise, as soon as if you wrap tight around the top, it'll turn into that triangle shape. We want like a triangle one because we want it to look kind of as even as possible. So I'm doing a bunch of wraps on top. And now, put my finger in the wrong hole. This would be where I'd go off to the side of the table here. If you're going to do this, it's pretty fast to wrap them. Once I get the tight wrap at top, the close wrap up top, I mean, you want it all to be tight. Then you can just kind of hold it and like just move the wire like this. Because again, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a close wrap. It should be a tight one. You want to make it tight. But the space between each spiral can be, you know, pretty far apart, like an inch. But then at the bottom, again, we're going to give it a few good twists at the same place. And chop that guy off. Now, depending on what color flower you're doing, it will depend on what kind of floral tape you want to put under here. I'm doing a light one. Now, if you don't have much options in your floral tape, then just do whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, at the end of the day, it'll be okay. But it is good if you can to invest in, you know, getting kind of a variety pack. You know, I probably have a ton lying around here because I don't use all the colors, right? So like here's a variety pack I got at some point, right? When am I going to use these? I don't know when I'm going to use those colors. Oh, I'm going to use that color right now. That's when I'm going to use it. Told you, I don't use much pink. But that being said, I was going to show you another option for That's so funny. I'm like, oh, wait a second. When can I use the pink? Well, now would be a good time to use the pink. Except I'm actually going to show you something that you can do if you don't have an exact color. And maybe you have like a light. It's good if you can find it to have a neutral color like this around. Like a beige or a tan. You know, if you can find one of those, it's good. Because that, the funny thing is I finally have a place to use the pink and I'm not going to use it. Because I'm going to show you if you have a neutral color and you should kind of keep on hand some alcohol ink markers or some Sharpies, something like that, because you can just use those to change your floral tape color to pretty much exactly what you need, depending on how many. So, you know, put it down about 4 inches or so, 3, I did about 4 inches. So, let me make sure we're still recording. I'm so paranoid now. That was insane. I'm exhausted now. Because I did not do that. And so I don't know, I'm just grabbing, this isn't probably even the color I'd use, geranium. That's interesting. I have never made a geranium. That's the name of this color. So what you might want to do then is use this alcohol ink. Let me get a paper towel to have it handy. So I'll get my paper towel handy. And so I just kind of color the top in. what I want because, you know, it's going to be underneath there, so I don't really want it to show through too much. If you can avoid it, it's not the end of the world. These are just little things I do, and if you do them, you do them. If you don't, you don't. You know? Okay. That's cool. I know I'm going to leave something out that I was like, I should make sure I include this, but now that I forgot. And then I'm going to blot it, you know, because clearly I'm showing you off camera. Clearly this is too, you know, dark for that. So I'm just going to blot it down, kind of wipe it off. And, you know, and then it turns into a lighter pink, and that's fine. It's actually a little darker. I did a little thicker than I might want to do off camera. You know, so I'm just trying to kind of get like a shadow of the pink underneath it, right? And in fact, this is still probably even slightly better than this because I wanted kind of a darker pink for the top one. Okay, so now let's get down to business and let's everyone simultaneously right now cross your fingers and hope that I don't snap any wire because I unwound it. And again, paranoia checking. Yes, still recording. I couldn't, my heart just fell out. I have a few other things I got to do. I'm trying to finish this like big custom one, and things are going to end up weighing more than a bowling ball by the time I'm done with it. Okay, so anyhow, but these are kind of more fun to make this. Well, it was more fun to make it the first time. The second time, we'll hope that it goes well. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. Basically, you're just mimicking the Spider Mom thing for the first part. You know, doing as tight as you can, doing your wrap, maybe starting at about 1/4 of an inch, or not even that, maybe, I don't know, 3/16 of an inch below, you know, whatever, you know, about that much. And, because again, don't worry too much about the stem, the floral tape color, because you're going to cover it up anyway. It's not even so much up here. It's like when it sees through, but again, it's going to be such a tight wrap. So that's just more my thing. You know, if you haven't realized by now, if you're watching this, you've probably watched the other ones. So, you know, I got my things that I focus on. Let's say focus. That's a good word, right? A few other words came up first that were not as complimentary or not as neutral, at least. But we're going to go with focus. There's some things I focus on, which I always tell you, you don't have to. You really don't have to. Okay, so now this is my next level here with this guy. And so this one does have 2 different sizes on here. So I want to make sure I'm starting. And I know the wire looks super weird because I kind of kinked it up. Now by the way, on this one, I just want to be clear on that. So on that one, I used a 26 gauge. I used actually this 26 gauge artistic wire peach, which I didn't really intend to. I was looking for a pink, but my bin of 26 gauge wire is, let's just say, needs some attention. We'll just put it that way. So this was on top, so I found it, or close to the top. So this works, and it's easier to do. Now here's my problem is I kind of get worried about it being stiff. So for the other ones, so like for this one, I actually used a 26 gauge again. It's a softer 26 gauge. I think it was what I used. Where'd you go? There you are. I used 26 gauge artistic wire rose, not rose gold, mind you. Rose gold is a different color. It's very light and somewhat coppery, almost like bare copper. No, this is like an actual like rose color, and it's a very soft wire. It's actually not that easy to find rose and not rose gold artistic wire. I don't even remember when I got this, but it's 24 gauge, but it's still super soft. It doesn't mean it's not thick though, but it is easier to twist. So I use that for this. For every other thing, even the next continuous loop one, I used the 24 gauge pearl silver. Okay, so now let's make sure that we start with the smaller side, if applicable, which it is here. So I'm going to wrap up from the bottom and get it to meet right there. Once it meets the bottom of the previous level, we start going. And I do that sometimes just to kind of bend things up, get them kind of out of your own way. Okay, we're going to twist. Let me make sure we're still recording. That was horrible. Especially because I'm just really nervous now that the wire, because I did some pretty tight twisting. Now, at the end of the day, by the way, remember, you know, it's not the end of the world. You remake a flower. Yeah, they take hours, and yeah, that would be not fun, to say the least. But it's not the end of the world, and it's a learning experience. It really is, and I'm not trying to say that to be, like, cute about it. I mean, seriously, I've learned more from my mistakes that I've made making, these flowers than ever I have learned when they work out. And trust me, I remember not to do it the next time. So we're doing the same thing. So I'm not going to stop too much for these because this is old news, right? We're doing the same thing. So we're doing our little wrap around here. And so it already kind of looks like this cute little angry pink chrysanthemum. Look, it doesn't, I don't know why. It's just like, look at me. I've got really pointy things sticking out. I don't know why it made me think of that. It's kind of cute though. Like I want to tell it it's going to be okay. It's a very cute little flower, but we're going to still do the same thing. You could stop here if you wanted to make a mini and put it into a little arrangement. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to be a little loopy now because this is in fact the actual second time I've made this entire flower. But the silver lining here is I learned a better way to unravel them, which is probably going to be a dumb moment for everyone else on the planet. But they snag on each other whenever I try to unravel them. And I realized that if you do ever have to unravel these, which probably everyone else has figured this out, it's a lot easier if you pull them down, pull the wire down as you're unraveling to kind of I was always like unraveling them like straight like this. And then they would snag on the previous row and it would just be like, get out my 7,000 power reading glasses or my magnifying glass to see what's going on. But then I realized if I pull it down, the wire that I'm unraveling, as I'm unraveling, it keeps it out of the way more. So again, that might be something that y'all already figured out. Sometimes I'm a little late to the game on things. Now with these, we're going to do our shaping, right? We're going to do it kind of fast. Because we've done it before. We all know the drill. So, and we do our shaping as we go simply. And now it's not the end shape. We're doing like the initial bends on things. And that's just so that it's easier to grab it, right? We talked about this when we did the mums. There's nothing new for these first few units. In fact, one would think I could pause it, but I'm scared to stop and start this thing again. I will be 100% honest. The reason it took me so long to make this in general was because I was having phone issues for the last few days with doing videos and it wasn't letting me save them. So that being said, oh, that looks kind of cute. I kind of like it. I'm going to make a little pink one. Oh my gosh, I totally like it. I have to make more minis for this certain situation or smaller little arrangements. I think I'm going to make a little angry pink one. That's cute. Okay. Now again, I'm going to make it look prettier later. It's just to get the initial bend because it's harder to do that later. It's easier if you have this bend done to like, alter that than to start from flat. Okay, so last continuous loop segment. Again, this one is all the same counts on it. So whichever is the shorter side, I've made them both long. So do that thing again where I'm going to wrap up and around, get this guy right up in there. I might want to start with a few more wraps. There we go. Wrap it for a little bit if you're going to do this method. And then right when it's about to get to the actual loops, make sure you're pushing it up against the base of the previous unit. Okay, now, this is old news. We're about to go to the new news. Let me make sure we're recording. Okay. Okay. So now the spider mum portion of the wider petal mum has completed. We're doing our thing, wrapping it down. You wonder why it was hard to unravel it. Look at that. I was wrapping it tight for days. Do our same thing we do with spider mums, which is looking down, just making sure that everything's sticking straight out like rays from the sun. All right, we're making sure everything sticks right out there. And that's because these are kind of like, I said this in the last segment, and now I'm kind of sick of hearing me say it, but it's kind of like the factory default settings, is having it straight out. If we need to go back in and then, so that's why I do that first, is to kind of get it back to like factory settings. And then at that point, if I need to put more petals on one side or the other, I can. I just want to see what it would look like straight out. I mean, you can always manipulate things differently later. Okay, so then same as we did with our spider mums, and it looks pretty well dispersed. And this one, because it's a triple stem wire, is going to be really hard if I have to bend it to show you. So we're going to keep it to the side for now, and I'm doing my initial bends here. Just do them fast because I'm going to come back anyway later and make sure everything's doing. There's a lot going on with these. Like I said, this is a challenge. Challenges are challenging. If they're not, then it's not really a challenge, is it now? So I know people use that often in non-challenging situations, like the such and such challenge. But no, this is supposed to be challenging because we're adding our last thing. Now, making the crossover loops has its own level, has its own set of, say, annoyances or difficulties or challenges, let's call them. Wrapping them also has challenges. Now, you could make this one into 2 separate units also because it is 2 different sizes. That's where I choose not to. It gets it floppy. It's very floppy with that, but and heavy. But the thing is, I'm also trying to keep less wrapping around, on less stuff going on around the stem wire. Up to you. You can try it both ways. A lot of times with these, instead of doing the sort of wrap up to the top by holding it under my thumb, sometimes I'll just straight up, because they're thicker and heavier and floppier, I'll just hold the first petal, like push it on there and then actually hold it, like put my thumb on the bottom of that petal and start wrapping, and then like wrap a few wraps around from here. It's a clunkier way to do it, but that's because my hands can't always hold the heavy ones. It works doing this the other way too, though, by the way. Just wrapping up to it. I'll try it on the next one. Okay, so then I make sure I'm pushing. Now, here's the trick with these. I'm going to be real clear. When I told you before that you could snag when you wrap up, that happens on a Spider Mum once in a while. It will happen a lot on these because those bottom little twists are clunky. And so they will snag a lot easier. So you have to be really aware as you're wrapping that your wire is actually touching the stem wire and not just stuck on another thing. Now, so you're kind of checking as you go, making sure that it's really lying on there. The last time I wrapped it, I had to undo a layer or 2. You don't have to go back. If it's near the bottom and it's easy, sure, unravel it and go back. If you realized after the fact that it's wobbly. Otherwise, just keep going. I have ones, I'll bring it out in a second, where if I can find it, that's been around for a while, where, see, I could just feel that one. It got snagged on one and I pulled it down. And I also do this every so often just to get it out of its own way. Just to get it out of its own way, I just kind of grab it and push it up. Okay, checking again if we're recording. And it hasn't turned off on us. Okay, and sometimes I'll turn it around halfway around just to make sure my thumb isn't artificially pushing up only one side. Now, these can get very turned around, and that's okay. I mean, they will get very turned around. It just happens. You know, so I'm pushing as I go, and it can still have that unravel situation happening, so you don't want to, like, pull. You're doing that, you're pulling just to the limit. Okay, again, we're pushing up. And then... And you can do it faster. I did it faster the first time. Wrists are a little tired right now. After a double duty on this one. If the pedals could talk, they would probably say, you and me both. That was irritating on my end, too. Because they got bent and unbent. So this is normal. In fact, this actually looks fairly decent. Relatively. I mean, they can get way worse than that. This is about normal for when you wrap one of these wide petals. So you want to go back through, and not only now are you trying to, like, you know, make sure they go out like rays in the sun, you're also sometimes having to kind of grab the petals and actually turn them back around. Sometimes they'll be twisted sideways, like this one. See how this one's like twisted sideways right there? So I have to actually pinch it and go down to I'll pinch down at the base and turn it back upright. So I'm pulling them down right now. I'm going to push them back up in a second. This is just me kind of, there's a lot more zhuzhing, let's say, to these. A lot more like kind of stuff you have to sort of take care of. See, this one's sideways again. I'm going to go in there at the base, try to get down as far as you can, and turn it back flat. Right? So it's prone up into the sky there. So there we go. And then, so I'm also doing a slight bending with them. Looks kind of cool like that, huh? But this isn't our end of situation. So now, okay, we're looking good. We're looking on the bottom, doing the same check, making sure. And I would look down. Oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to regret it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to bend this thing. So we're looking down on it, too, to see if, you know, there's a good dispersal of them. This is not our final one. There's a lot of manipulation with this one. So once I get that done, I'm going to push it back up to get it out of its way. Gently this time. I'm not going to smash it because I want it to kind of keep that curvature and stuff. I'm just trying to get it out of the way. Okay. So now, oh, I already regret it because I realized if I'm going to put on those, I need to flatten this. Dang it. Out. Okay. My wrist is ready to stage its own rebellion. I think my wrists are gonna strike after this. I took the brace off my other one because I kept snagging the wire in the brace in my right hand. Anyhow, so these are all the same size, so it does not matter. And now that they looked kind of good before, but now that I mashed them a few times, and the wire looks crazy kinked, right? It shouldn't look like that, but that's because it already did what we're about to do. So now, again, if you don't want to do that, however you want to hold these, you can still do that, wrap up with like 1.5 inches or 2 inches of wire. And I kind of use my tip of my forefinger, the back of it even, to like kind of force it right up onto the bottom layer there. Okay, now once I get there, I'm holding it in place right now because I kind of want to get everything going. It's definitely much easier to manipulate these in 2 segments. I don't know. I just thought for some reason I had to have all my colors together. I just do some weird things sometimes. And if you guys have been watching these videos, you probably know that. I got my own thing going on here. Me and the beads. I still think I might be the only one that bites them. I love how everyone has politely declined to comment on the fact that I bite my beads. I think someone once commented on it today, which made me think, no one said anything about me biting my beads. It's like you're trying to be polite about it. It's like, yeah, that's not weird. Sure. Yeah, biting your beads. So anyhow, I have weird little things going on. That's the gist of it. But you know what? You should get your own weird little things with the beads. It's kind of fun. So wrapping and then kind of making sure I'm pushing it up there, and every so often doing a little push up just to get out of its way. Gentle, not squeezing, just holding it and kind of gently. Remember, these things, I know I keep saying you're the boss, and you are the boss, but they're sensitive things. Imagine that you have a whole classroom of very sensitive, like teenagers or something, You're still the boss, but you gotta kind of be careful how you manage it. Now, if you notice with these, once you twist these, they can all turn sideways like this. And just like in the last one, before we do anything else and worry about what goes where, we reset everything and make sure that all of our petals, there's only 16 of these, it doesn't take a year, right? Make sure they're all flat. And do a kind of a quick little bend on them. Notice how as I'm doing it, I'm doing this little sort of thing that gives it a little bit of if you do it like this, it gives it a little bit of a, natural flow, making sure it's flat, pulling it over, pulling them over, and I should be back at the beginning at some point, one would imagine. Okay, so, and I am. So again, we look at the bottom and we're going to see it looks pretty well spaced, That's the thing is you can move them over, even these thick petals, wide petals, you can move where you need them to move. But that looks good enough. And later on, if you feel like there's a gap somewhere, and you need more petals, then you can do it later. Okay, so smushing up. Because we're ready for the last one. And we are still recording. Okay, good. Now, boop and boop. Let's do it. Now, okay, got this thing in your hand, this floppy thing. Now again, you can hold it up under here and wrap it back, wrap this one while holding it. Or you can do what we do with the spider mums, start out about 2 inches and wrap up to the bottom. And then it's just, these things get long, so sometimes that's harder to do, that method. It might be harder for me to do. More able hands might be okay with it. So you just do it however it works for you, basically, is the gist of it. So again, I'm making sure it's kind of tight. Even before I do a full lap around, I'm actually doing the push-up on it, because this last one, these are, oh my goodness, the stem wire is hitting my shelves next to my work table. So if I suddenly jerk it forward, don't be surprised. And then again, I can kind of turn it around, and I'm keeping it tight, keeping an eye under here. And look at what happened there. That's kind of loose. So that means I must have snagged something. I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna just really be mindful this time that I actually get the wire onto the stem wire and not onto one of the bottom twists of a previous petal. Now, if you don't notice that till the end, which I have often not done, I just keep going, it's fine. Once you put the calyx on, it'll help with that. It's just, it's just easier if you do have everything all kind of tight and all that. So you kind of look as you go, especially with the big floppy ones. Make sure that, you'll see it. You can see that your wire, like that the units are not, like if they go like that, that's fine, but you'll be able to see like at the base is like it's really shaky. And that's because the wire is not actually twisting on the stem wire, it's twisting on the base of another petal at some point. Okay, and if I go out of frame on this one, nothing personal, but I gotta say, too bad. I can't do it again. Okay, so there it is. My wrists will never let me beat it. Sometimes they get to that stage anyway. Now, okay, so we got this clearly looking a little messy, and that's okay. So I'm gonna go back in again, especially with these long ones. I'm gonna, really make sure I'm getting flat. And right now it's just about getting them flat and kind of turned up a bit, kind of bent up, smoothed out. And sometimes with it, you might smash one of your petals too. And so you'll go back in and just flatten it down. It might get kind of tweaked out there a little bit weird. Just go back in. Even if they get turned totally upside down, you just go with it. Just flip it around. Like you'll have ones that because of the twisting or whatever, they might end up like that, even though they were supposed to be naturally like that. So just, now that's the new up. Okay, so everything looks kind of flat here. That's good. And now we're gonna look at our spacing. And because this is all the same color, I can't really tell when the units change. So I'm gonna look at all of the light pink at once, even though it was 2 different wraps. And see, I'm not gonna worry about the next pink up. I already dealt with that one. So I'm gonna look at it upside down. Checking this thing out. Checking out my petals. Again, remember, this is called a challenge. And it's okay if you mess this thing totally up the first time. But if you do, I'm going to ask you, if I can double wrap this and do it again, do not give up. Try it again. I did it for you guys. You do it for me. So if it doesn't come out perfect the first time, you do it again, right? I literally did this one with these wrists a second time for you guys. So I want you not giving up either. Trust me, that was a bit heartbreaking. So I'm just hoping we can get it to be, it really looked good too. And the funny thing was, well, let's see if it happens this time before I don't want to give away the punchline. It's not really that funny. So I'm looking down, looks pretty good. And you can always later on when it's right side up, go back in, but I'm just kind of making sure it looks, and then, okay, so then you look at this and you go, what the heck is that blob you made me make? That doesn't look anything like this smooth, spherical, lovely thing here, which actually I was showing you guys you could mess with it, and so now it's been messed with. But this smooth dome, where's my smooth dome? And you might be thinking that, but I'm going to tell you, it's there. It's there because these numbers make it. They make it happen. You might have to spend a little time shaping it. I kind of think that's fun. Now, before I start my final shaping, well, actually my final shaping would happen after the calyx, but before I start my I guess my first full shaping where I'm doing all the petals at once, I hold the top and I just really pinch this bottom one and just push everything in there, just get it all up in there so it's all even. What does that do? I don't know. It might do absolutely nothing. I literally have no idea. But I do it every single time. So do you want to tempt fate like that? I don't know. Just do it. So mash it down. Okay, so again, that's just to kind of get everything tight in there. Okay, and again, you're going to look at that and go, that doesn't look too good. Yeah, because we're not done yet. Patience. I'm saying that to myself, really, mostly. And I'll be honest, for the first time when I was doing I think I already said this with the other video, I was like, oh, what if this one doesn't work out? And it worked out perfectly. But watch me do it this way. So I normally start with the bottom leaves. and I get that full thing. And, and if you don't know how you're going to shape it, a good kind of rule of thumb, I guess no pun intended, but rule of thumb is to, I kind of hold them like this and pinch them, and then just like really concentrate the bend, but a smooth bend about halfway up, halfway up the petal. So I'm going to put that smooth bend on everything first. So that's where we're going first with this. This is not a small process. But that being said, this video might end up being long, but it's still going to be shorter than all of the Spider-Man ones combined. So you're still getting a fairly short deal. So again, I'm not going to have it like this right now. This is just to kind of get everything having a uniform bend to it. And I do wait until the end to do this. You can, if you find a different method that works for you, you do it, knock yourself out. Sorry, I still have allergies, so I'm a little sniffly. So now I go into my next level. I'm doing the same thing where and I love doing this shaping for some reason. So I'm just doing a nice soft shaping with my, I got to get more in there with my index finger, making that shape. Basically about, a fingertips length down is where I put the bend, and it's a soft bend. I don't want to like jerk it into like a, right angle. I want it to be a soft bend. So I kind of rub it up a little bit. Like I bend it, but I also kind of smooth as I go, kind of flick it a little bit. So we're getting all these guys shaped. And there's a lot of petals in here, so, it's going to take a little bit. Now that's amazing. Looks like a birthday cake. Not what I'm going for here. If that's what you're going for, then you're done. Not what I'm going for here. I'm going for that kind of closed up spherical thing, and then I might mess with the bottom ones. You double check. Okay, we're still recording. Oh my gosh. Okay, so right now, by the way, I'm working the first layer, the first unit of continuous loops, or the outermost unit of continuous loops. And I'm doing the same thing where I want to put a more smooth curvature on these. Now, the only reason I don't do them which you might go, well, isn't it easier for is because you hold it so much that it would just mash them anyway. So, I think I used to try to really shape as I went, but now I just do sort of a very preliminary shaping, like I said, and then wait for final shaping at the end. So I'm going through, and I would normally not have you watch me do every single petal, except for the fact that you kind of have to see the process. If you want to fast forward the process, I would not blame you. Blame you? So we're getting up to the end here. It's harder to do them, at least for me, when they're shorter. And I can feel I got some wiggle in here. So look at that wiggle I got there. Not the end of the world. I can feel that that's real wiggle, like that's unit wiggle and not like petal wiggle. But that's just because it probably snagged on one before, and it's literally not even close to the end of the world. Even close. None of this stuff is, right? We got perspective on that. So the most this can ever be is disappointing and frustrating. But everything is fixable, even if that fix means you have to do it over, which I literally had to do this whole thing over, and I'm still here. Right? So the fix might be that, which we all want to avoid, but sometimes it's unavoidable. As you notice, I'm checking I was like, as I'm talking about this, I'm going to double check that it's still recording. Okay, so I'm just kind of putting a bend on the tops. Now what we're going to do, now that they have these initial bends, again, you might have your own way to shape this. Like, feel it out. Literally, like, feel it out. What works for you is I push it all back up again. Push it all back up again with both hands, both directions. And now you can see we're getting closer to that shape, right? We're getting closer. And I know this thing makes that shape because I just did. Whether I can make the shape again is a different story. So once I got that, now I'm just kind of petting it down. Do what seems natural to you at this point, to get the shape you want. But I'm aiming again for that smooth dome shape, and you can make it. Because these weird little measurements I gave you, all these numbers, make that shape. They just do. You can, shape it out of that. And you can make other shapes with it for that matter, too. And in fact, there might be similar numbers that give you those shapes. This is the one I came up with after many times of manipulating it. I have no idea where it even started from at this point. This one's been around so long in one form or another. Okay, so now you can kind of see that we're getting, because I'm kind of, now at this point, I'm kind of manipulating the tips, just the tips of each petal. And getting them, you know, in the shape I want. If something sticks out too much, bend it down, for goodness sake. You know, bend it forward. And so you'll start to see that we're getting that really round shape, right? I think it looked better the first time. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I do feel like, you know, but that's because I probably have less patience with it right now, to be quite honest. It's probably not the flower's fault at all. But again, you can go up to the top and you can make this flatter if you feel like it's getting too spiky at top and you want that nice rounded dome. And there we got it, right? There it is. You know, we got that pretty little rounded dome. It took a lot of manipulation for this one, right? This video is a kabillion minutes long. A kabillion? I've heard kajillion, but a kabillion? I'm finding new imaginary number. Okay. I can hear my dog snoring on the couch. I don't know if you guys can. Oh, now he's doing that chihuahua honk thing that they do when they get older. If you have a chihuahua or a chihuahua mix, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't yet, you will when they get older. It's kind of a funny sound. Sounds like a goose. It's not probably very much fun for them, though, so I shouldn't tease them about it. Okay. Now, so again, I made that shape. I have barely said it in this video, I don't think. But I get to make this shape because why? Why? I barely said it. I've refrained from saying it. But I'm going to say it right now. Because this is my last video with you guys. Because I'm the boss of the wire. Yep, I said it. I'm the boss of the wire. So I wanted this shape. So I made it. Because it's wire. It bends. Now, again with this too, and also because the numbers that I gave you with these give you just enough fullness to make it, and the lengths and the number of the different lengths will give you the shape, right? And so there we are. We got it. I want to, as you can tell, I kind of want the top to mush down a little bit more because I want it to be really domey. So I mushed it down more. Look at that. That's really domey now. Is domey a word? Should be, right? So, I guess dome-like. Well, you know, obviously I'm getting a little bit loopery after doing this twice. Okay, because you can see how long it's been, right? It was literally that long when I made it before. So it's 47 minutes. So I did 47 minutes before. So, hopefully I didn't leave anything out for you guys. Because this is our last time together with this particular mum month thing, though. Might be making the videos has been a lot of fun. So I might be doing sort of weekly or bi-weekly little ones for fun. I guess the vote next is for Pussy Willow one, which is a very easy thing to do. And you already learned a lot of great techniques for that last month with Lauren. So we can adapt those techniques into the Pussy Willow situation. That's an easy one too. Thinking we should do a poppy at some point. Poppies are fun. Of course, I have 5 of those, so we'll have to pick which one. Okay, so there's our dome-like little guy. Oh, sorry. So one last thing. So you can assemble it the same way. One last thing we were going to do is to see if, I don't know, I'm just going to grab whatever tape I have here. I was like, I don't like that one. Why do I keep it? Because I don't know. Even if you have a tape that you don't like, floral tape you don't like, you can always use it for the under wrapping stuff, so don't throw it away. I'm going to see, I don't know, because I didn't put a calyx on, I should have done on the prototype. I'm going to see if the 7 and 7 calyx fits this thing with a triple. Now, if you're doing a double, you should be fine, because that's the same, right? And you can use the same leaves. Now, again, I really want to keep a lot of sort of, I use this, I said this before with the spider mums. I use this for fortification too. And in order to do that, I want it to bunch up on itself. I want it to like layer over, and because that makes it thicker. So I'm going to push that right up on the bottom and use that roped up. And because it's going to go under a calyx anyway, so what do I care? I don't care. So I'm going to wrap it down a little bit, still ropey, They're still like, you know, doubled over on itself. And then, you know, once they get down past like an inch or so, then if you just hold it, and you can always tell what the, like the upside is. The upside, because it has like kind of this weird kind of way it curves, floral tape. So if you hold it so that the curvature is down, and just, you know, kind of push your fingers up here, it'll just fix itself. If you just hold it there, by the time you get to your finger, it'll go flat again, and there it is. Okay, so once I get about that much down, so our only goal here, I'm not going to put on the leaves and everything because we all know how that works, and this thing is already long enough for everyone. I'm more worried about you guys having to sit through all this excitement of me trying to shape it. Now, so I do, when I want to put on the calyx, I want to get down, you know, past all this wire gunk, otherwise it'll get stuck in it. And you can trim some of that off too, so that you don't have to go down so far. Like, you know, I don't want to go down that extra inch, so I'll just trim that guy off. So I'm going to go down to cover up the wires so they don't snag in the calyx, and we'll see if that one fits. I'm skeptical. I think I'm probably going to need an 8 and an 8, but we'll see. Oh, some of my wires sticking out there. You don't want to hurt people, you know, especially if you're sending them out in public, and anyone, even for gifts or whatever. You don't want to hurt your friends and family. Like, here, have this lovely flower I made for you, and let my wires stab you in the finger. We don't want that. So if you see wires sticking out of your stem, we're going to come back and do more floral tape. So if you see wires sticking out, just make sure you tamp it down a little bit. You can even go back and cover it up again, you know, and start from back there. I just roll it back up. I'm not too concerned with the way the tape looks, because I'm going to, you know, do a whole nother coating of it. Okay, so now I have officially gone past the petal wires. I don't care about the black wire from the beginning. Let's see if this will fit. Well, no. I'm gonna be honest. I'm thinking no. So it's not like the last one where I'm like, oh, Cinderella's slipper. I'm so excited, because I actually don't think it's gonna fit. And if it does, cool, because then I don't have to make another one. If it doesn't, then I gotta make another one. Not the end of the world. Now again, did you see our nice little dome? Aren't we all excited? Now these are not, like I said, they're gonna take some time, and I'm serious. If it doesn't go well, just don't give up on these, because they're fairly straightforward once you get them. They're more work, but they're more flower. I mean, that's a lot more flower. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I love the spider mums, love them, of any kind of different patterns and stuff. Just in general, love them. This is just more flower, right? It's denser and there's more going on here. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna pull out one of the example calyces I made. I was hoping I made one slightly bigger, when I still thought the numbers were, looks a little bit bigger. Okay. Oops, there that goes. Now, wait, let's look at this one hiding under here. Nope, definitely not bigger. Okay, this one might be one bead bigger than, like it might be a 7 and an 8 instead of a 7 and a 7. Okay, so put that down there. It might fit. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so where's... Oh! Let's see if I can make this video even longer. Oh, here, let's move this out. Now it's probably better to be against the white. Or it's not really white. It's kind of a linen color. So I forgot to, you know, pull these through. Oh, a box of beads. That's a really pretty color. Not appreciating it just fell on my hand, but... You know, inspiration comes from all places, like the apple falling off the tree for Newton. Was it Newton? Anyhow. So maybe I'll use that in my next flower. Okay, so we're putting this through. And sometimes I, you know, use pliers. I'm being a little... I should use pliers. I want to tamp down the edges. Get a little lazy, so I'm pulling that through with our calyx. I forgot these were just ones I had made, and I didn't get to the stage because I didn't use them, so I kind of straighten these out. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay. Can it? Maybe that extra bead helps. Let's see. Look at that. It fit. It fit. It fit. Well, I'm excited. That's cool. I mean, I don't mind making kales. Usually don't take that long, right? Once you get used to them. But I got a few other things I'm supposed to make on the list, so the less I can do. That's why it's good to have your little basket of parts, you know, practice. This one would have had one extra bead and been slightly too big for the previous Spider-Man. Not going to waste. It's in the bin. Pull it out now, and it fits. And so I do that thing, that kind of uptight thing. Like I said, you know, if you watch the other videos, you realize I got my things. And so I noticed that there's like this little part where there's like kind of an extra, you know, for the last row, it makes that little point there. And so I look for a spot, which to me is really obvious where it is, on the bottom of here where it might go up. And so right here, it goes up a little bit in between two petals. So I'm going to put it right in there because it's like an extra lock on it, like a lock that keeps it going. And it fits. So at least y'all stayed around. And again, I'm pushing it right up there because it does the same thing as it does for the Spider-Mums. Right, I'm pushing it right in there, and now look at how tight these leaves are. Oh, and then we can do our final shaping. I'm not going to do anything else but just tie this one off here. And then we can... So after you get your calyx on, or if you don't make one, it's not the end of the world. Same thing as the Spider-Mum. So this one definitely, if you can make one, try, because it does help a lot. It helps with the Spider-Mums, but it really helps here. So this is going to be hard for me to do without tangling it under the camera. So I'm going to chop it off and wrap it. Got that, so I'm not making a mess. Okay, let's wrap it off tight here. Okay. So I'm going to make sure, and when I did that, I made it get a little bit looser. So I'm going to go back up again. If you feel that it's getting loose, go push it back all the way up again and get right on that bottom. See now, oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Somehow I let it get loose. Not the end of the world. Just go back up to the bottom and start wrapping again. That's better. Okay. Now, at this stage, you know, normally I leave the wire like this. And in fact, I probably wouldn't even do the final shaping just because I know I'm going to have to hold it to put on my leaves. But just to show you again, we have that pretty dome shape. But you can also then, once you have your pretty dome shape, you know, it's kind of fun to make that first. And then to kind of give it that flair, like, you know, like the old watercolor prints, vintage prints, you know, bring some down, you know, fluff it out a little bit, you know, and kind of don't try to be too predictable with it, you know, turn some one way, turn some the other way, you know, just do fun little things with it and spread it out a little bit. You know, push it down from the top. Mess with it a bit, because even if you mess it up and you don't like it, you can now, you know how to put it back into being like a sphere, you know. So let it have its moment to breathe, spread its wings, spread its petals, and fly. Yeah, like I said, it's me and this flower spent a lot of time together tonight. This is its second incarnation. Would be funny if it was actually a carnation. Second incarnation of a carnation, but unfortunately it's not, so it's not that funny. Now, you know, and so kind of spread things out, you know, if you want to, or leave it as a dome. Sometimes you'll see those ones when they'll be pulled way down, a few up here, and then this will be curved that way, and then this one will be like that. You know, so have fun with it. These are, now that the calyx is on, you got a little more freedom because it's pinching it up in the bottom, so you shape around it. You know, I wait till the calyx is on because I want to have that like support on the petals in general, but then I also can, and that makes it so that these can, you know, twist it around, do something weird, you know, you go put in vintage, you know, chrysanthemum print into like Google Images or something, and you'll see like a bunch of weird shapes and stuff, and make one. You know, most of the things I make, I actually look at old prints. I used to look at old like 40s fabrics, you know, were kind of a good inspiration, like bark cloth. I think it's pronounced that way. And, you know, just any 40s fabrics would be kind of place I'd look, just old vintage botanical prints, of course, because they're awesome. I have books and books of those, books and books. But even, you know, anywhere where you kind of, what you like, you know, and so they often have like these kind of weird little twists to them. And so now you can make that too. And now we've got a big old chrysanthemum. And you can do that. It's cool. And you can keep it fairly globe shaped like this guy, if you like that. And look, I got over my fear of pink. Pink is cool. I mean, I did like pink, so I shouldn't act like I don't like it. I liked it a lot. But for some reason, I never did a traditional pink flower. And I think we broke through. So thank you all for paying attention to it and helping me get over my fear of pink beaded flowers. My own, not of other people's, which are awesome. So, that one looks pretty big. You can fluff it back up this way and just pull a few down. Keep working with it. They're fun. Like I said, they're sturdy. It might be giving some people anxiety, but they're really sturdy. When I go back and I go, oh, now it's flat on that side. Oh, now it's not. That's why they're kind of cool too. And that's why I like the 24 gauge on the outside, because it holds. So the other thing though, quickly before we go, is you can also do that obviously with the, there's no calyx on this one though yet, so it's a little floppier, but you can do that on the disc one also, right? The more disc-like one, and it's your aesthetic, right? And this one is, I don't know if I prefer it. They just both have their places, truly. I really wanted a super spherical one at one point, so I made one. And that's, and that wasn't even this one. That was probably 2 times ago. But there's something to be said for this sort of flatter one too, because when you spread it out, it actually kind of looks cooler, right? That looks pretty cool. So, have fun with these. I really love it. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Stop. But before I go, this is the bead that just fell on me. I just realized this outer one, so I guess I've already used it. But you can do it with the small ones too. My point is just, have absolute fun with these. If there's anything more than even being the boss of the wire that I hope we got, which you probably already had. You probably already have it, at least as a group now. We kind of have it together, and you probably already had it together as a group, so I shouldn't assume that. But one thing I want to make sure that I always convey when I'm making mine is, have fun with them. Do your thing. Okay, so there we go. We have, look, it's so pretty and so pink. That reminds me of that 80s song, Pretty in Pink. Imagine that. So have fun with them. Remember, you can shape them. You can do your thing. Experiment. They're pretty darn flexible, And now we've got this cool bouquet. I don't know what I'm going to, we'll see if I put them all together, but I'm kind of digging it. I mean, that's kind of, okay, trying to turn the wire. The stem wire is so thick right now. So there you go. You got your bouquet. I know it's right on up in there. Let's see. Well, that didn't help. So these do take a little more time, but they definitely have a lot more sort of matter, like substance to them. And both have their places, and they're both super fun to make. And I think I'm going to do a piece with just these 3 together. So the pink kind of livens it up. Anyhow, so have fun with these. It's been an awesome mum month. Hope you guys had fun. It looks like a lot of you did. Some of you probably are sick of hearing about mums, which I would not blame you. But give this one a try. And, let's share pictures again. That was super fun. And I will type up the different segments for each of these 3 different sort of versions of it. And, yeah, that was fun. And stay tuned for other random fun things we can do together. Cool. Okay, I'll see you guys later.